Breaking tonight, FBI and ICE have raided a Minneapolis aid group after investigators uncovered massive sums of hidden cash concealed inside its headquarters.
Today, we announced the dismantling of the largest money laundering and fraud network ever discovered operating through a nonprofit organization on American soil. Those words, delivered at a federal press conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota, would mark the beginning of the end for an empire built on deception, greed, and the systematic exploitation of humanitarian aid. 6:47 in the morning. Minneapolis, Minnesota. $250 million in cash. Not in bank accounts. Not in offshore holdings. Physical currency, stacked floor to ceiling behind false walls in a building that was supposed to feed the hungry. 18 shell companies spanning 3 continents. 47 compromised officials across state and federal agencies. And at the center of it all, a man the community called a saint. This is not a story about charity gone wrong. This is a story about engineered betrayal on a scale that federal investigators had never seen before. And what they found behind those walls was only the beginning. Stay with me, because the next part is worse. 4:17 in the morning. The streets of Minneapolis are frozen and silent. A light snow falls through the amber glow of streetlights, coating parked cars in a thin white dust. The temperature sits at 11 degrees below zero. Nothing moves, nothing breathes. Then, from 6 different directions, black vehicles slide through the darkness like shadows given form. FBI tactical units. ICE Homeland Security investigations. DEA strike teams. Minnesota State Patrol SWAT. They converge on a 3-block radius in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood simultaneously, each team assigned a specific target in what federal planners had codenamed Operation Frozen Ledger. The primary target is a 4-story building on Riverside Avenue. The sign above the door reads Minnesota Community Relief Alliance. For 7 years, this organization has distributed food, provided refugee assistance, and collected millions in federal and state grants. Tonight, federal agents will discover it was something else entirely. At 4:22, the first breach begins. SWAT officers move in formation up the exterior stairs while a secondary team positions at the rear loading dock. Flashbang grenades shatter the pre-dawn silence. The front door comes off its hinges in a single coordinated strike. Agents flood the building in waves, their boots thundering across tile floors, their voices cutting through the chaos with precise commands. FBI, federal warrant. Everyone on the ground. Inside, they find what appears to be a standard nonprofit office. Desks cluttered with paperwork. Motivational posters on the walls. A break room with a coffee maker still warm. But the lead agent, a 20-year veteran named Martinez, notices something wrong. The building's blueprints show 2,300 square feet on the ground floor. What they are standing in measures maybe 1,500. 800 square feet are missing. They find the first false wall behind a storage closet. When the battering ram punches through, cash spills onto the floor like water from a broken dam. Bundled hundreds. Bundled 50s. Vacuum-sealed bricks of currency stacked from floor to ceiling in a space that runs the entire length of the building's eastern wall. But this is only the first site. Across the city, simultaneous raids are hitting 5 other locations connected to the Minnesota Community Relief Alliance. A warehouse in Brooklyn Park. A restaurant in Bloomington that serves as a front. A residential property in Edina registered to a shell company. A check cashing operation in North Minneapolis. And a modest house in Burnsville where the organization's CEO, a man named Ibrahim Osman, lives with his family. At the warehouse, DEA agents discover something beyond cash. Behind reinforced steel doors, they find pallets of pharmaceutical supplies that were never meant for any legitimate medical facility. Controlled substances. Opioids diverted from the healthcare system. Enough fentanyl to kill every resident of Minneapolis 3 times over. At the Burnsville residence, ICE agents execute their warrant just as Osman is attempting to flee through a back entrance. He is carrying 2 briefcases. One contains $800,000 in cash. The other contains 3 encrypted laptops and a satellite phone with numbers registered in Dubai, Nairobi, and Mogadishu. By 5:45 in the morning, federal agents have secured all 6 locations. They have detained 14 individuals. They have seized what preliminary counts suggest is over $250 million in cash and assets. But in the basement of the Riverside Avenue building, a forensic team makes a discovery that changes everything. Behind a second false wall, accessible only through a biometric lock, they find a server room. 12 blade servers running continuously, connected to a dedicated fiber line that does not appear on any utility record. The servers are encrypted. The hard drives are partitioned with military-grade security protocols. When FBI cyber specialists finally crack the first layer of encryption 3 hours later, they find a network diagram that makes seasoned agents go silent. This was never just about money. This was infrastructure. And Ibrahim Osman was never just a non-profit CEO. He was a node in something much larger. 11:34 in the morning. FBI Cyber Division Field Office, Minneapolis. The server room hums with activity as analysts work through terabytes of seized data. On the main display, a network visualization slowly takes shape, each new connection adding another thread to a web that spans continents. Senior analyst Chun stares at the screen, her coffee growing cold in her hand. "This is not a fraud scheme," she says to her supervisor. "This is an operational blueprint." The files recovered from Osman's servers reveal a structure that has been building for nearly a decade. At its core is a system the architects called Project Restoration. The name sounds humanitarian. The reality is anything but. Project Restoration is a money laundering and fraud network of unprecedented sophistication. Federal grants meant for refugee resettlement vanish into shell companies registered in Delaware, Wyoming, and Nevada. State food assistance funds flow through ghost corporations in the Cayman Islands before returning as legitimate business investments. Private donations intended for disaster relief end up in real estate holdings across East Africa and the Persian Gulf. But the money laundering is only one layer. The network also moves people, not refugees seeking asylum. Smuggled individuals whose passage is paid in debt bondage. Men and women brought to the United States through fraudulent visa applications processed by immigration attorneys on Osman's payroll, then forced to work in businesses controlled by the network until their transportation fees are paid. The financial forensics team traces the structure across 17 shell companies. Each one is registered to a different nominee director. Each one processes transactions that appear legitimate on the surface. Restaurant supply purchases, consulting fees, international wire transfers for charitable projects. The money moves through the system like water through a maze, emerging clean on the other side. And at the top of every authorization chain, they find the same digital signature, Ibrahim Osman. But Osman did not build this alone. As analysts dig deeper into the encrypted files, they discover a layer of protection that explains how this operation survived for 7 years without detection. Osman had allies, powerful ones. State Representative Marcus Lindquist appears in the files as Asset 7. His official communications show a consistent pattern of intervening whenever the Minnesota Community Relief Alliance faced regulatory scrutiny. License renewals fast-tracked, audit requests delayed, complaints from whistleblowers quietly buried. But Lindquist is not the most significant name in the files. That distinction belongs to the woman the network refers to only as the architect. Her real name, according to the encrypted personnel files, is Sarah Vance. Her official title is Deputy Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Her unofficial role is the person who designed the entire grant fraud methodology that has funneled over $400 million in public money to Project Restoration over the past decade. The files show that Vance did not just look the other way. She engineered the system. She created approval pathways that bypassed standard verification. She placed sympathetic reviewers in key positions. She personally signed off on grant applications that any competent auditor would have flagged as fraudulent. Her compensation, according to the financial records, totaled $12 million over 7 years. Paid through a consulting company registered to her sister's address in Florida. Lead investigator Torres reviews the evidence and says what everyone in the room is thinking. This is not corruption. This is commandeering. They did not infiltrate the system. They redesigned it. The encrypted servers contain one more file that changes the scope of the investigation entirely. It is labeled Expansion Protocol and dated 18 months earlier. Inside, analysts find detailed plans for replicating the Minnesota model in 11 additional states: Ohio, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona. Each state already has preliminary infrastructure in place. Each state has identified assets within the political and bureaucratic structures. The federal government has not just discovered a fraud network. They have discovered the blueprint for a parallel system of governance, one designed to redirect public resources into private hands while using the language of compassion as cover. Torres makes a call to Washington. Within 2 hours, Operation Frozen Ledger is no longer a regional investigation. It is now a national security priority. 5:45 the following morning, February 15th. Federal Emergency Command Center, Fort Snelling, Minnesota. The room is cavernous, designed during the Cold War to coordinate military responses to continental threats. Now it serves as the nerve center for the largest coordinated fraud and corruption takedown in FBI history. On the main display, a digital map of the United States pulses with over 300 red markers. Each marker represents a target identified through the Minneapolis server data. Shell companies, compromised officials, money transfer points, human trafficking transit locations, real estate holdings. The network stretches from Minneapolis to Miami, from Seattle to Savannah. FBI Director Special Representative Angela Morrison addresses the assembled team leaders. At 0600 hours, we initiate simultaneous operations across 14 states. Over 1,800 federal agents, 37 SWAT teams, coordination with ICE, DEA, IRS criminal investigation, and Homeland Security investigations. Our objectives are asset seizure, suspect detention, and evidence preservation. This network has had years to establish itself. We have hours to tear it down. The briefing continues for 40 minutes. Each team receives specific assignments. Each target has been assessed for threat level and strategic importance. At 6 o'clock in the morning exactly, the operation begins. In Columbus, Ohio, FBI agents raid a food distribution center that has been processing fraudulent SNAP benefits for 3 years. They find $2.3 million in cash hidden in freezer units and evidence of ghost beneficiaries numbering in the thousands. In Detroit, Michigan, ICE Homeland Security investigations hits a trucking company that has been transporting smuggled individuals across state lines. 14 victims are recovered. 7 network operatives are detained. In Atlanta, Georgia, IRS criminal investigation executes warrants on a real estate development company that has been laundering project restoration funds through luxury property purchases. The company's CEO attempts to destroy evidence by setting fire to his office. He is tackled by agents before he can reach the server room. In Phoenix, Arizona, DEA and Border Patrol coordinate a raid on a warehouse complex near the border. What they find inside represents the network's most disturbing expansion. The warehouse contains not money, not drugs, but people. 47 individuals held in shipping containers converted to living quarters, awaiting transport to destinations across the Southwest. Back in Minneapolis, the raids continue as well. Teams hit the homes of state officials identified in the encrypted files. Representative Lindquist is taken into custody at 6:14 in the morning as he attempts to board a private flight to Canada. Deputy Commissioner Vance is arrested at her lake house in northern Minnesota, where agents find an additional $4 million in a safe beneath her bedroom floor. By noon, the scope of the damage becomes clear. Across 14 states, federal agents have executed over 300 search warrants. They have detained 112 individuals. They have seized an estimated $600 million in cash, real estate, vehicles, and financial instruments. They have recovered over 200 victims of human trafficking. And they have arrested 31 public officials ranging from city council members to state legislators to senior bureaucrats. The network that took a decade to build has taken less than 12 hours to dismantle. But the investigation is not over. Because the servers seized in Minneapolis contain one more revelation that investigators are only beginning to understand. February 17th. FBI Evidence Analysis Center, Chicago. Forensic accountants and intelligence analysts have been working around the clock since the raids began. The data recovered from Osmond's servers is immense. Over 40 terabytes of financial records, communications, operational documents, and personnel files. As they work through the material, a picture emerges that is more disturbing than simple fraud. The Project Restoration Network did not just steal money. It systematically compromised the systems designed to prevent theft. In Minnesota alone, investigators identify 14 state employees who received payments from the network. Not politicians, not appointed officials, career civil servants. The people who process applications. The people who conduct audits. The people who are supposed to be the last line of defense against fraud. The network recruited them carefully. Some were ideological sympathizers who believed they were helping their community. Some were financially desperate. Some were compromised through blackmail after accepting initial payments they believed were legitimate consulting fees. But all of them served the same function. They were the network's immune system. Whenever a red flag appeared, whenever a complaint was filed, whenever an auditor got too close, these embedded assets would intervene. Applications would be lost. Investigations would be reassigned. Whistleblowers would be transferred or terminated. Senior investigator Kim reviews the personnel files and shakes his head. They did not just corrupt individuals, he says. They corrupted the process. The entire oversight mechanism was redesigned to protect them. The pattern repeats in every state where Project Restoration established operations. Compromised employees in key positions. Modified procedures that created exploitable gaps. A system that looked functional from the outside but was hollow at its core. But the most disturbing discovery comes from the network's internal communications. In a series of encrypted messages dated 8 months before the raids, the network's leadership discusses what they call Phase 3. The messages are fragmentary, with many files still being decrypted, but the outline is clear. Phase 3 was an acceleration plan. The network intended to dramatically expand its operations over the following 18 months. New states, new shell companies, new compromised officials. The goal, according to one message from an unidentified sender, was to establish permanent infrastructure that would survive any single investigation or prosecution. The message concludes with a chilling assessment: by 2026, we will be too integrated to remove without destroying the systems themselves. The federal government did not just stop a fraud network, they stopped it 18 months before it planned to become permanent. The trials begin 6 months later. Ibrahim Osman, the man who built the Minnesota Community Relief Alliance into a $250 million fraud operation, pleads not guilty to all charges. His defense argues that he was a legitimate humanitarian worker who was exploited by corrupt officials. The jury deliberates for 4 days before returning guilty verdicts on 23 counts including wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and human trafficking. His sentence is 37 years in federal prison. Deputy Commissioner Sarah Vance, the woman the network called the architect, initially attempts to cooperate with investigators in exchange for leniency. But the scope of her involvement is too extensive. She designed the systems that stole hundreds of millions of dollars. She personally approved applications she knew were fraudulent. She destroyed evidence after learning the investigation had begun. Her sentence is 28 years. Representative Marcus Lindquist pleads guilty to corruption charges and agrees to testify against other network members. His cooperation leads to the conviction of 7 additional public officials across 3 states. His sentence is 12 years. Across the country, the prosecutions continue for 2 years. Over 90 individuals are ultimately convicted of crimes related to project restoration. Over $800 million in assets are seized or frozen. Over 300 victims of human trafficking are identified and provided with services. But the investigation's final report, delivered to Congress 18 months after the Minneapolis raids, contains a warning that extends beyond this single network. The systems that allowed project restoration to thrive still exist. The oversight mechanisms that failed to detect the fraud for 7 years remain largely unchanged. The career civil service positions that were compromised are still staffed by humans capable of being corrupted. The network was dismantled. The vulnerability remains. Here is what you need to understand. Power does not always announce itself with violence. Sometimes it wears the mask of compassion. Sometimes it speaks in the language of community and aid and service. Sometimes it builds itself brick by brick inside the institutions we trust, until one day we discover that the house we thought was ours belongs to someone else entirely. The Minnesota Community Relief Alliance was supposed to feed the hungry. It fed itself instead. $400 million stolen from programs meant to help refugees, the elderly, the disabled, the struggling families who needed assistance the most. Those dollars did not disappear into abstract accounts. They were taken from real people, from meals that were never served, from rent assistance that was never paid, from medical care that was never provided. And the human cost goes beyond money. Over 300 individuals were trafficked through project restorations networks. Promised opportunity, delivered into bondage. Forced to work in businesses that looked legitimate from the outside, while their captors collected their wages and controlled their documents and threatened their families overseas. This is what corruption looks like when it is allowed to mature. When it is protected by the very systems meant to prevent it. When good people stay silent because they do not want to believe what they are seeing. The agents who executed Operation Frozen Ledger did not just recover cash. They recovered faith in the possibility that these crimes can be stopped, that the systems we build can still function when good people demand they do. But they also delivered a warning. This network was not unique. It was not unprecedented. It was a template. And somewhere, right now, in another state, another organization, another system of oversight that has been quietly compromised, the next version is being built. The question is whether we will find it in time. If you watched this far, tap the like button so more people see this story. Comment, expose, if you want more investigations like this one dragged into the light. And share this video, because the most dangerous corruption is the kind that disguises itself as kindness. Remember, this story is fictional. It is dramatized. It is based on real issues but does not represent any specific real events or individuals. But the warning is real. Power protected by silence is power that never has to answer. And in a democracy, that is the one thing we cannot afford.